I think that's a good message in the sense that you might even have the same result on your genetic test, but your behavioral and what your lifestyle is can change your path entirely.
And I think speaking to what both of you just said, I don't methylate well. So what Dr. Menka was talking about, right? So
I'm just going to, you've got that, can I say it? Is the motherfucker gene? Is that?
That's what it is, right, doctors?
Hey, and welcome to the Forties Formula, your go-to place for insightful discussions on navigating the 40s and thriving in this transformative decade.
We're your hosts, Jasmin and Amanda, two women that are passionate about exploring the challenges and adventures that come with turning 40 and what lies ahead.
Dr. Menka, Dr. Deepika, thank you for joining us on the Forties Formula today. I am really excited to have you both here. We have been waiting for this episode. I feel like autoimmune disease is something that takes a while to sort of take hold. You have these symptoms. I was 14 and I was going through a lot of stuff. I had crazy hives. I had really messed up periods. I just was gaining weight uncontrollably, but nobody could tell me what was going on. And it wasn't until I was 23 years old, so 9 years later, was I told that I had Hashimoto's. Mm-hmm. So I was getting all these symptoms and I just couldn't understand what was happening. And it wasn't until I got the diagnosis that I thought, oh shit, all of this stuff was connected. So why does it take so long to diagnose autoimmune conditions? And what should people look out for?
Yeah, I mean, you're so right about this. Average, it takes around 4.5 years for a person to get diagnosed that they have an autoimmune condition. So I think to start with, the symptoms are so non-specific. And the fact that they're, applying to all different parts of the body, all different organs. So let's say, they could have muscle fatigue, they could have joint pains, they could have joint swelling. They could have, in terms of some gut symptoms going on, some skin symptoms going on. And, we have specialists for all of these fields. We have a dermatologist, we have a orthopedic specialist. But the point is, at the end of the day, we need somebody who can connect these dots and say, maybe test them at an earlier on stage when somebody's coming with non-specific symptoms. Problem is that a lot of times it's said that it's in their head. Mm. Or maybe you're very stressed and that's why you're getting these dizzy spells. So a lot of times it's been ignored as just that it's something, they're worried about, but nothing is going on physically. But sometimes when the doctor is listening to them as well, they want to run some lab tests for autoimmune conditions and antibodies. And a lot of time those tests are negative. Mm. So we don't have tests which will definitely say you have this condition. For example, rheumatoid, right? I mean, so many times rheumatoid factor is negative. And they have typical symptoms, women in their 40s, getting up with stiffness, joint pains, but rheumatoid factor is negative, and then they're hushed away, till it's really painful. And that's when, they're given medications to help with that. So I think it's, number one, the symptoms, which are so non-specific, related to different specialists and different doctors. Number two, the ability to diagnose them, because there are sometimes not specific markers which are present at the time, which may slowly develop over the years. But there are doctors who are now in, screening. They are doing ANA antibodies. And a lot of times this is pre-autoimmune. So these ANA antibodies are developing much before they are developing symptoms. And I have patients who are very well read and they're like, this is high, what can I do? Wow. And so that's what we're talking about, prevention, which is something which we discussed about, that, we get on and work on those antibodies which are not supposed to be there so earlier on, and what's really triggering those antibodies off. So we are getting people who are more, who are very well educated they know how to tackle this much before the disease actually shows up.
What causes autoimmunity? Is it genetics? Is it lifestyle factors? I know you sort of mentioned stress a little bit earlier on, and you're saying that, people are told it's stress. Is it stress? What is it that actually causes these?
So autoimmune disease is actually our immune system, to be honest. Very, very unhappy, not thinking right, hurting our own body tissues. So our innate immune system is there to fight the viruses, the bacteria, the pathogenic organisms, the environmental toxins, the sensitive foods. So they are there to fight these bugs which are around. They're not supposed to be fighting against us, against our own body tissue. So this whole cascade of inflammation which happens, and then our own immune system starts targeting our, let's say, thyroid tissue, that's not really supposed to happen. So that's where, functional medicine comes in. We look at not just the genes. Yes, genes have a huge role to play. There are lots of studies being done now, which was coming out that, we have human leukocyte antigen, HLA, we have IL-2, we have TNF, AIP. These are definite loci of genes which when you test certain autoimmune people, they have these genes which are, they have these loci which are active in there. But the fact is that you may have the genes and you're living this beautiful, healthy life. These genes really don't show up. Or sometimes you may not have the genes because there are hundreds of genes and maybe you have some or you may don't have some. But it's the factors, the environmental factors which come in, which can play a huge role. So for many, many years, we were talking about genes and environmental factors playing a role in autoimmune disease. But amazingly, Dr. Fasano, who's like our teacher and our mentor in Institute for Functional Medicine, he came out with research in 2000, which he saw that these autoimmune patients, there is a marker called zonulin, which is high in their body. And then he traced zonulin back to the fact that zonulin actually cause those tight junctions in your intestinal wall to open up. So then he started connecting the dots that all these patients have high zonulin. So he brought the third factor in, which is increased intestinal permeability, which is all about your gut health.
Is that leaky gut by any?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that's leaky gut. So now it's very well researched, and Dr. Fasano, he's Harvard University, head of department in their nutrition. And he's been researching this for many years. And that's how we've learned the functional medicine way of treating all these, working on all these three factors, right from environment, leaky gut, and genes to actually improve the expression and not have autoimmune disease or prevent it. So Dr. Deepika is our lady who actually deals with the whole lifestyle and all those triggers, and also the genes, which she helps our patients with. So,
well, you just used the word trigger, right? Yeah. And that reminds me of one of my favorite quotes about the interplay of genetics and health, right? Which is your genetics loads the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Exactly.
And so what you said, like you can't control your genes, but you sure can control your lifestyle and the expression of those genes.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I guess what you're saying is then that it doesn't matter if you have the genetic predisposition, as long as you are managing or living a healthier lifestyle, you may not be susceptible to those conditions. So are there specific factors or specific conditions that could then open up and lead to autoimmunity? For example, the genetics, the lifestyle, is there, and you're saying the gut health. Does stress also play a role in that as well?
So increased intestinal permeability, there are many factors, and that's when I sit down with my patient for an hour, really exploring with them that what triggered that leaky gut. So we are definitely, in women around 40s, we are looking a lot at hormones, and it's not just the cortisol, DHEA, cortisone, it's their estrogen, there's progesterone, their testosterone, their neurotransmitters, melatonin is not enough, they're not sleeping well. We also look into serotonin and dopamine, and if that's not enough, and that's causing, lack of pleasure, lack of motivation, and that can all impact their gut health. But then there's a huge thing about environmental toxins, about gut microbiome.
Jasmin, there is so much information on gut health out there right now. And if we as nutritionists are tired of trying to wade through the oceans of probiotic strains and supplements to figure out what's best for our families, I imagine our listeners are too.
Oh, no doubt they are, which is why I love the simplicity and straightforward science of the berry, tropical, and ginger tonics from Akisi Wellness.
Akisi's prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic tonics combine all the good stuff. Active probiotic species, real fruit ingredients, and billions of good bacteria in a drink that you can actually feel confident is what your family needs for better health.
I actually love doing a quick shot of the ginger tonic to get my anti-inflammatory benefits after a big workout. Oh, and my kids will definitely love the sweeter tasting berry, which I love since they get all their polyphenol, brain, and digestive health benefits.
For me, it's all about that mango, passion fruit, pineapple tropical tonic, packed with antioxidants and beta-carotene for my immune system. It's actually amazing mixed with some sparkling water as a healthy, tasty mocktail at the end of a long day of recording in studio.
Our Singapore listeners can get an exclusive 15% off and free shipping with all orders using the code 40s on akisiwellness.com.
That's Akisi Wellness, AKESI Wellness.com. And now, back to the show.
About latent infections, CMV and EBV. So really finding out with this patient, where are their triggers? And if you start working on them and not just putting in the protocol, but actually helping that change with the 5 pillars of health, which Dr. Deepika does, is very helpful as well.
Yeah. So I think that Dr. Menka, once she kind of maps out the underlying causes, and as she said, the underlying causes can be from, them having a sad diet, what I call not even just a sad American, but sad all around the world.
Okay,
diet.
thank you. Yes, okay. I was feeling very, very targeted right there.
Yeah, okay, very triggered. So whether it is a diet full of processed food and, refined foods and high sugar and trans fats and, everything that's going to feed the bad bacteria in the gut, or whether it is food sensitivities that come out of the tests that we do, or whether it is anti-nutrients. Like an anti-nutrient for me, the one that I think has come out the most significantly in many clients, especially with thyroid issues and all the hormonal issues, is stress. So where the gut is concerned, I always call stress an anti-nutrient because that seems to trigger leaky gut as much as gluten, which has gliadin and which can then turn to this whole zonulin cascade happening.
Can you define that for us, anti-nutrient?
Okay, so if you think of nutrients, right, in terms of food, what does that represent? You're looking at phytonutrients that come from plant foods, right? The plethora of rainbow diversity from non-starchy veggies, whether it's broccoli, whether it is eggplant, tomatoes. I mean, nature's given us that bountiful amount of phytonutrients. And then you have proteins, clean, lean proteins, whether they're plant or animal sources. You have fats, healthy fats. We don't want the trans fats, largely poly and monounsaturated fats, with some healthy saturated fats as well. So all this is what these are called nutrients, fiber-rich foods, being able to bring in even enough water. So if you think of these in terms of food, right, what else in terms of, if now we know that the gut lining, when it gets, gets leaky, the gut lining is where your immune system is sitting, and that's what's getting targeted and kind of goes into stranger danger mode, right? Yeah. So what is it that you really are looking at beyond food that's not serving your gut? So when you have high levels of stress, you have imbalanced stress hormones like cortisol, and imbalanced cortisol triggers the gut lining as much as gluten or processed food. Right? And in that gut lining, you also have serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter being produced. So it's all a kind of bidirectional intelligence to the body that gets disturbed and disrupted. So that's why I was talking about anti-nutrients, not just in the area of food, but also in the area of too much exercise, lack of sleep, lack of motivation, not being able to put enough stress-reducing techniques, and not sometimes for people not just, not having a sense of value, meaning, and purpose. I've seen it so many times with women who are in their 40s. They've dedicated their lives to their family, and they start, kind of going into a phase where the kids are leaving. And then they have an empty nester kind of syndrome, and they go into a sense of perceived threat. What's the reason for my existence? And that kind of causes a drip of cortisol, which is as inflammatory to the gut as processed food.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because I feel like what could be stressful for me may not necessarily be stressful for you. And that could be the physical activity, that could be the emotional, the mental, whatever it is. And I think it's just how you deal with it. So sort of based on that, how can genetics play a role in personalized treatment?
Okay, so when we look at, we are kind of addressing autoimmune here, right? So if I can just talk about personalizing these plans from a basic up to something which is very targeted, right? So if someone comes in and they have autoimmune issues, you start off with maybe just an elimination plan where we talk about a whole body detox, not just with foods, but again, looking at stress factors, looking at all the 5 pillars as we spoke about just now, right? And then with Dr. Menka prescribing maybe a food sensitivity test, we kind of target food sensitivities further. So taking out foods that may not be suiting them, that are actually okay for everyone else, but not okay for them, right? And then you can target it further into an advanced plan. Now, over and beyond that, if Dr. Menka asks them to do a DNA test and you find that they have what we call methylation issues, or they have a GST SNP, a genetic SNP, which is going to interfere with the master antioxidant in the body, glutathione being produced, right? Then you have to be able to personalize that first, which Dr. Menka will take care with supplements. But in terms of lifestyle, being able to put in foods, B12 and B9 rich foods, being able to really reduce stress, but find out what their triggers are.
Amanda, you're going to love this. I just found out that the Meat Club have added a whole new range of protein snacks and supplements to their website.
Wait, what? I thought they just did the meat and the fish and that brand new range of fresh fruit and veggies.
They do, but now they've got things like grass-fed jerky, protein bars, and even bone broth. It's all packed with nutrients that are perfect for a quick and healthy snack.
Okay, that is exactly what I need for the days when I'm running between clients and recordings and kids.
Exactly. Do you know what I love the most? Is the Chief Collagen Protein. I just stick it in my coffee to help with not only my skin, but healing my gut with all that glycine.
Okay, so I just need to jump over to www.themeatclub.com.sg and check out their full range of protein snacks and supplements.
Yup, and you can save yourself 12% off your first purchase using code TFF12. And don't forget to follow them on Instagram at @themeatclubsg.
And they also offer a subscription service with the perks that are amazing. You can get up to 15% off your basket and even free mints for life on orders over $100. Plus, they offer over $160 worth of exclusive perks and give you the flexibility to edit your cart or change your delivery day anytime.
Now back to the chat.
Why is it that they're going into the sense of too much cortisol or too little cortisol? Is it that their night and day is getting switched around? For many people, that's what they do. Others live on a sense of high alert. They are too busy all the time and they're tired but wired. And in other cases, a sense of threat, emotional. So what is the underlying trigger? Sometimes emotionally, it's, uncertainty, novel circumstances, sense of threat to sense of self, losing a sense of control. So really being able to target that and see what's going on.
So when we talk about epigenetics, it's your methylation or your histone modification or your microRNA, which are basically playing a huge role on the phenotype expression of the genes. So if you can modify that through epigenetics, through all the factors she just mentioned about, you can actually go a long way in reducing inflammation on autoimmune process in the body. So epigenetics is hugely coming out in terms of prevention of autoimmune diseases. And I'm very excited about how this will go on further because we just started learning. In med school, I wasn't taught about it at all. But now, last 12 doing this work, really finding out what is this person. Genes can tell us that you may be gluten sensitive, you may get lactose intolerant, you are very predisposed to inflammation. And based on that, you make plans. You can really modify the outcome of the expression of those genes.
It's funny because I think we've both had a circle DNA test done, haven't we? And on there, on mine, it basically says that I'm carb sensitive. And it's quite weird because I've pretty much, I think for the last 7 years, I've been low carbing just because I feel it makes me feel better. And then when the genetic test showed that, I was like, oh, it kind of makes sense because I know I can definitely feel that I feel better without, eating too many carbs. And I guess, like the gluten sensitivity and all of that stuff, it kind of does show that there is an issue.
But interestingly, Mine also shows that I'm carb sensitive, but I'm on a very specific diet. I'm an athlete and I'm working on hypertrophy, right? So I'm working on muscle gain. And so my diet right now is 40% carbs. And I just raised that actually.
Can you imagine me on 40% carbs?
And so even though my genetic test says you're carb sensitive, because of my epigenetics and the way that I live my life, I actually need more carbohydrates to achieve a specific goal, right? So whether or not I'm carb sensitive, so I think that's a good message in the sense that you might even have the same results on your genetic test, but your behavioral and what your lifestyle is can change your path entirely.
And I think speaking to what both of you just said, I don't methylate well. So what Dr. Menka was talking about, right? So
I'm just going to, you've got that, can I say it? Is the motherfucker gene? Is that?
That's what it is, right, doctors?
Exactly. And, the way you were speaking about, over time, all these, like Dr. Menka was saying, I've done this for so long, it's been an unconscious kind of leaning because it's made me feel better.
Yeah.
So the moment I kind of put in because my husband doesn't do that much meditation, he doesn't do so much stretching, he doesn't do so much balancing, but my body needs it. And, just looking at the way that you can target exercise, personalize foods, as you said, personalize, like you've brought in exercise at a different level which suits you, and then sleep, being able to prioritize sleep for someone like me. Really making sure my sleep-wake cycle is in place. And as I said, just always being able to align with a sense of value, meaning and purpose. And sometimes I think that's why I've come to this field. So it's amazing how something which was possibly what I would have viewed as a weakness has turned out to be my greatest strength.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that's the tweak of how you can transmute something like methylation into working for you once you make your lifestyle changes,
That's
epigenetics.
Right.
Just to sort of go back, can you just explain to our listeners what methylation means and what that means in terms
what that
of
MF gene is?
Okay. So methylation actually is you have MTHFR, which is an enzyme that works on dietary folate to convert it into methyl folate, which is a compound that is very fundamental to myriad functions in the body, whether it's your mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell working well to release energy and to detox and all your detoxification pathways. So it's so involved, so kind of integral to that. So if this enzyme is kind of not working properly, you can imagine what's going to happen. You're going to end up with fatigue. You're going to end up with toxins kind of being held on. So I had fatigue, headaches, muscle aches, and all of this. And I have to say, after I worked Dr. Menka worked with me as a patient and really targeted that. And once we were able to make all the epigenetic changes, first being able to really bring in the foods which were therapeutic for me, balance out my meals, actually get rid of a fasting cycle that I had. It was a very extended fasting cycle. So these are the changes that I made where food was concerned, right? And also supplementing after making all these changes. And the result is today I have a body that feels pleasant, a mind that feels clear, and optimal energy flow so I can show up for myself, do what I love, and be there for my family and my loved ones. And what more is there in life?
Nothing.
So,
we haven't gotten there yet, but that is the Forties Formula right there. That is exactly what you described.
Yeah. Now, I came across an article, I think it's a very recent article, I don't know if it was out late last year or early this year, but it stated that women are more susceptible to autoimmune because of a chromosome. The way the chromosomes are, the XX chromosome as opposed to the XY chromosome. Can you explain that to us a little bit, if you're able to?
So I've been following that research as well. So what they did was they tested women with autoimmune disease, and they tested men with Klinefelter syndrome, which has got the super X. And these men were also predisposed to autoimmune disease. So what they found out that certain gene loci in the X chromosome, if women, because they have two X chromosomes, sometimes they are more predisposed because a lot of these autoimmune diseases are found in the same loci. So they tested that with men who also have the super X chromosome. So that's one of the reasons in terms of genetics why women are more predisposed. Not saying that men don't, but women, because of this, have more predisposition.
It's crazy, isn't it? That would explain why you tend to hear more women suffering from autoimmune conditions as opposed to men.
Yeah.
Is the if I'm not mistaken, are the stats that 80% of people who have autoimmunity are women? Is that correct?
I've read around 60 to 80%.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
around
crazy.
that range.
Yeah, but a majority no matter what, right? Like if
Yeah.
we're being serious. And I think one of the first things that you said in this chat was about how, women are being dismissed and told that it's in their head, and isn't it interesting, right? That the majority of us have this, meaning minority of men have it, and therefore the
It's
predominantly
not an issue.
male medical community is telling us it's in our head. And I think that is it's such a powerful message for women who have consistently been told this about anything that
Absolutely.
they're feeling.
Yeah.
My own mother was told this about her postpartum depression, that it was all in her head. Just go home to your baby, you'll be fine. And isn't it interesting, right? That guess what? This is an exclusively female problem, right? So, yeah.
I think this is the interesting dive with latest health science, where you can really target and personalize and see the facts for what they are, and then make such specialized changes that you can really help yourself.
Yeah, and you've got that point out, really, all the medical research. Everything is for men.
Yeah, for men. My
We've
men,
never put
consumer
women in
men, yeah.
front. So, but I think we are in the research field working towards including more women in the studies, and because even sports, for that matter, which
Absolutely.
you're doing.
Talk about it.
Nobody takes care of women or cycling, and when would be the best time for them to run that marathon or do that sport activity? Because the way our hormones change, maybe there's a point in your cycle when you're best suited for that. But again, nobody's researched this, right? Or the research coming slowly in this whole field.
Part of my work is on women that are pregnant and postpartum weightlifting. And there is no consensus on that because no one studies that because
No one wants to.
No one wants to, exactly. So up to this point, I mean, we have like very, really anecdotal studies. There was a study of like 14 CrossFitting moms. It's like, well, based on these 14 super fit women, here's what we know. But it's like we don't have the type of data that we need to get these messages out to women more, at the population level.
Yes, true.
Do you find that people tend to sort of functional health and functional medicine when conventional medicine can't help answer their questions? And also, how did you both find yourself in this functional medicine field?
Yeah, so I think when they do get a diagnosis, whatever medications or biologics they are on, they have a huge role to play in symptom relief, in getting them remission, not reducing inflammation. If they have RA, then not getting the joints destroyed. So they do get a lot of relief. But the problem is that a lot of times these biologics or medications don't work for everybody. So I see that a lot when medicine is not helping. I also see a lot when they have huge side effects. Obviously, these are medications which are affecting your immune system. They do come up with a lot of side effects, and then they don't want to continue it because of the side effects. And also, it's huge financial cost. A lot of these medications, we are talking about tens and thousands of dollars per year on just helping this autoimmune condition. And now what I'm seeing is a lot of my patients are children. It's not this 30-year-old, 40-year-old woman turning up in your clinic. These are 10-year-old children who have, let's say, rare conditions like dermatomyositis. It's living for them as hell unless and until they don't take those medications. But I'm also getting a lot who is looking for, a different approach than always taking a medication, which is obviously helping them. But what else can I do to maybe reduce the dosage or prevent this from happening because my mother has Hashimoto? Or what can I do that, I ultimately get off the medications and take care of my disease just naturally? So that's where functional medicine plays a huge role. And we generally slowly go in, heal their body inside out, see the medication dosages falling. I've had great results. Thyroid, Hashimoto, antibodies literally falling down from thousands to 50s and 80s. Better still, the symptoms gone.
Yeah.
They're on medication, thyroxine, but still have brain fog, fatigue, hair fall, skin dry, constipation, anxiety. But you work on the root causes, all these symptoms are going away.
Yeah, there's a doctor, and I wish I could give him proper credit, so I apologize for who said this originally, but it was like there's two types of medications, ones that have side effects and ones that don't work. Meaning, there is no solution that's medicated that is without any side effects at all, right? So there's always, complementary solutions that, might be better.
Yeah. And for me, coming in was very interesting. So I was this, working as a gynae, very conventional medicine doctor, had a tunnel vision, anybody who would come in, I was just focusing on uterus and ovaries and tubes. And I really wasn't bothered about what are her stress hormone levels like? What micronutrient deficiencies does she have? Does she have amalgam fillings sitting in her mouth? But now, this aspect that my mother was quite sick. It's like we're talking about, she had all the cardiometabolic disorders, right from cholesterol, diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease. And she also had ulcerative colitis and hypothyroidism. So, we can keep on increasing dosages, insulin, medications, but she was still not getting relief. So that's when I was like, what else? I am a doctor, I should help her. And literally I had to sort out and find out what other ways. And I got into functional medicine. We did DNA testing, we did gut microbiome testing, we did food sensitivity testing. And all of that, when you slowly work with a 70-year-old lady, slowly get all those changes in, it actually gave her a lot of relief. So that was my functional medicine journey, where I was like, you know what, I need to take this up. This is so exciting. This is so interesting. And this is how chronic health diseases should be dealt with. So that was my beginning. It was 12 years ago now.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
And Dr. Deepika, how about you? What got you into this journey?
Right. So I hold a PhD in genetics. So I was, for a large part of my study, my academics, buried in a lab looking at how genes cause disease. And when my daughter was in her late teens, she got an immune kind of condition. And I mean, she was subjected to so many antibiotics, because the doctors just didn't know. One wasn't working, they tried another, and it became really bad, her condition. And ultimately, as I was looking for answers, I went down the path of many alternate routes, but I always came to stumbling blocks, because they didn't, one is either they were not bedded in science, or they were like, they were so kind of stringent, where the expert was sitting there and giving, kind of tools that we couldn't really understand. And then I attended a session held with, Dr. Menka was there and a couple of other specialists. And as I was listening to her, I realized, because she spoke so much about the underlying root causes. And literally as she spoke, I could start identifying them. And so I met her, and that's when our journey started. So I worked with her for a while, and then I upscaled into mind-body medicine, as well as functional medicine, health coaching, and DNA testing. And now today, that's what I do with her. And I must say, what's really very close to my heart is functional medicine, health coaching. It's really made me realize, sometimes I think that when you sit and hold space for someone, and you listen to their story, and you have Dr. Menka's, so we have all the reports there. But then you turn the mic over to them and they start sharing. You're actually like a mirror. And when you start hearing their story, it's easier to pick up their why. Why is it that they want to make this change? What is it that they're really looking for? And over time, as you start making these changes, these step-by-step changes that they are inspired to make, and you look for barriers and you're able to do this, you find that like over a period of time, they're actually able to realize what good health feels like. And that is really, I think, it's a game changer. So I think it really is about marrying the tools of hardcore functional medicine, if I can call it that.
I like it. Hardcore.
Yeah. Along with all the soft skills of empathy and compassion and listening, and bringing all that to the table, and realizing that at the end of the day, fundamentally, it is their lifestyle that's medicine. It's them, as they make those changes, that's what changes the body's intelligence, right? And then you supplement them to help further, So it's a beautiful journey.
Can I just ask a quick follow-up?
Yeah.
What happened with your daughter's condition?
Okay, now this is, I'm aware of privacy issues, so I'm not saying much, but I will say one thing, that it was very telling. She had like gut issues and all of that, okay? And while she was under my watch, so this is where the soft skills come in. One of the biggest things that I can pick up about myself now, because I carry the warrior gene, okay? So I have a warrior gene. my tendency with my family has been not just to helicopter, but my body language has literally been one of anxiousness and fear. And as Dr. Menka kind of put a protocol out for her, we had all the testing, we had everything. She didn't make many changes. Okay, and nothing changed. Nothing changed. And it was when she went away to London, and she was, that's when she, like now she calls me up and she's like, Ma, guess what? I've gone sugar-free. And I'm feeling so much better because now that I'm sugar-free, I really feel it helps me when I get my periods. I don't have those mood swings. She's making the connections.
I love that. I really love that, Dr. Deepika. Like, the age at which she was diagnosed with the condition, that's why I asked what the follow-up was, because I was like, there's so many factors in there, right? Pubescence and just teenage angst and just, all these things all together. It's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, and Amanda, I can't tell you, that was the time I actually went into mindfulness. And I think it came a little too late because I think when she left home, she was able to make these changes. But with my family at home, I've realized what it means, and with clients, what it means to actually take a step back and just go into deep listening and reflecting mode. Because when that moment of realization comes for them, and even if it's such a small step, whatever that step may be, it may be something as simple as saying, I don't want to snack after dinner, and they do that for a month. Brush their teeth after dinner. I've had clients who've come in and said, that's all I'm going to do for 1 week. I'm just going to brush my teeth. So that's my brain understands that I'm not going to eat after dinner. So I have a good intermittent fast of at least 12 hours. And when you do that for a week and you come back and you realize, wow, I'm really feeling better because I wake up in the morning feeling not so kind of bloated. So that those aha moments is what I really, it starts making you realize lifestyle is fundamentally your medicine.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's just incredible, because I think when you are younger, you're just like, okay, just give me whatever pills. I remember when I first started taking thyroxine, someone said to me, oh my God, you're going to be so skinny afterwards. I was like, yeah, this is going to be amazing. And then nothing happened. And I was like, oh, hold on a minute. Why has there been no change? Because my lifestyle didn't change. And you need to be able to make those decisions. And when you're ready, make those decisions yourself. Like you mentioned that, you were helping your 70-year-old mother. My dad has got some issues now. But the thing is, I don't think he wants to change. And as a child or even my mom, we can't force him because he has to want to be able to do it for himself. And I think figuring out your why, like you mentioned, is going to be sort of key within your journey to heal.
True.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been absolutely amazing having you both here and hearing your expertise. But before we finish, we do want to ask one final question, and that's, what's your 40s formula? What word of advice or mantra would you like to share with our listeners about how they can thrive within their 40s?
I go.
Want me to go? Okay.
I have it written.
So I have to say that I'm in my fabulous 50s.
Wow.
So you're the best position to look back and let us know.
Yeah. So for me, I actually came up with an acronym, which I know that Dr. Menka's husband Arun loves, which has been, I think, my mantra, which is AIM. So awareness. So first, being able to have a sense of non-judgmental, compassionate awareness as to the stage of change where you're at. This is where I'm at, with that sense of acceptance, because you're starting from this point, right? And then I for intention. What is my intention? So the moment that, you kind of make that tweak into intentionally living with purpose, being able to align with curiosity, life starts opening up for you. And then M, literally making an action step. I mean, it's not really good grammar, but being able to make a goal step. So actually putting your body and your mind where your mouth is, or where your mind is. Like literally taking that step forward to start making those changes. So step-by-step change leads to long-term sustainability in terms of body's intelligence and the mind's intelligence shifting. And if I can end with 3 Fs, it would be ultimately having a fit body, free mind, a full heart, okay, 4 Fs, and a flowing spirit where you live with a sense of joy for yourself and your family and your loved
I love
ones
that.
and the world.
Forties Formula
Yeah,
with the 4Fs.
I was going to say we can take that. We can work with that. Deepika.
Yeah, I'll say 2 lines, which I think has been my mantra since I got into my 40s. So look forward in life. The past has gone. Today is a present. Make the most out of it. So I think just live in the present, live the best life you can.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
and
that's
I think
beautiful message.
everyone needs to take that on board for sure. So thank you again. It was
Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Guys, you know how much we love coffee. And if you want to show us some love, you can get us one.
Just visit buymeacoffee.com/the40s formula. Cheers. Before we go, please remember to hit subscribe and take a moment to support the 40s formula by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Your reviews will help us to reach more people and allow us to continue to bring valuable content. It should only take a moment, and it's a free way for you to support the show.
You can also stay updated with the 40s formula by following us on Instagram at the 40s formula, all one word. We share behind-the-scenes insights, episode updates, and much more, so please be sure to hit that follow button.
We appreciate your time and support. Thank you for being part of this community, and we'll be back next week for more empowering conversations with inspiring guests.
Bye.
Bye.
How about you two? How did you get together?
The story comes up every single time. So we're part of a networking group, Launchpad. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And we're both in the same field. We're both nutrition coaches. And
I see, okay.
And we met up for coffee. We had this great vibe.
Yeah, the coffee went way over. We had allotted each other an hour, because it was one of those let's get a coffee. Okay, we'll have a coffee with this person. And then it was oh, actually, we definitely have something to talk about. Yeah. And we talked and talked and talked. And then it was just so clear that, though we are in the same industry, we have different perspectives and we have different backstories.
Right.
So we thought this will be cool that we can connect our shared expertise, but come at it from two different angles. Yes. And that's kind of how the, main host, co-host thing evolved. We trade off main host, co-hosting duties so that one of us can just truly be here as an active listener, and just really interact with, with the guests in the conversation. And then one of us is obviously the main interviewer.
And sort of directing the conversation. So that's that. Yeah, it was just something that I felt like we had a good vibe and we thought it would work to get women who have, expertise and specialists in particular areas for women's health and not just, eat and exercise, right? It was more specifics. To it than that.
Let's give women tools and specifics and things they can do actionably, rather than just have a chat about health, right? Which we're all marginally interested in, but what we really want, right? We're all busy. Yeah. It's we want takeaways and we want to know what we can do today. Yeah. What's in our power?
Exactly.
So hopefully we provide that with our episodes. That's what we try to do.